Now, the former Brexit Secretary, David Davis, has suggested coronavirus restrictions should only be eased if there is no plan to reintroduce another lockdown. Very pleased to say that Mr Davis joins us on the programme. Good to see you this morning. Do hope you're well. Lots for us to chat about. We, of course, have been speaking to the Vaccines Minister, Nadhim Zahawi, on the show this morning, and I asked him if he would provide a cast-iron guarantee set in stone that there would not be another national lockdown. He said that there should not be. He would not quite go as far as providing that promise. Is that enough for you?
Well, he can't make a promise because he doesn't know what's going to happen when we actually relax the schooling restrictions and all the others later on. But the point is we should make maximum safe speed, and all three of those words matter, particularly safe. And it's possible. I mean, some of my colleagues have called for complete relaxation in April. May looks more likely. June is possible. Why? Because the effect of the vaccines, which you've been hearing about from your immunologist earlier, but also the summer. This is a desperately seasonal disease. I mean, look at the entire temperate zone. Last year, it all sort of died away in the summer and then came back late September. So, of course, he can't make an absolute promise, but the government must calculate around making this irreversible. I mean, the Prime Minister's used that word, making it irreversible, and that's for me, the single most important criterion in their strategy.
I mean, you mentioned the competing voices, if we want to call them that, on the Conservative backbenches, competing with the Prime Minister's view of how we come out of all of this. Do you think, from what you have read about what the roadmap will set out today, that enough has been done to perhaps buy the Prime Minister a little bit of time, buy perhaps the silence, at least in the short term, from people like Steve Baker and others?
Well, what we've heard has been quite vague so far. And what I want to hear, as well as the sort of criteria for movement, I mean, let me just pick up on a couple of them. You've been talking earlier about infection rates. I think we're going to go to a stage where the key issue is death rates and severe diseases, because I suspect that one of the effects of the vaccine is going to be to make the diseases people catch rather less severe. So if you like, death rates and hospital admissions, probably the key issue to concern us with. But in addition to that, I would like to hear from the Prime Minister this afternoon what they're doing to accelerate the vaccination programme. I think we should be aiming to get 1 million vaccinations a day so that what we get through herd immunity may be as early as June, and then we are ready for future variants to start vaccinating again in September. This is going to be the fourth bridge, frankly, as flu has become. You know, every year we vaccinate for a different sort of flu. We may well be vaccinating every year for a different sort of coronavirus. So those are the sorts of things I want to hear. And finally, what we're doing about therapies, because the other thing that's happening in the background, we've gone on about the glamorous vaccines, but things like dexamethasone and tocilizumab and possible therapies like ivermectin and colchicine, we should be accelerating the testing on those, just as we did with vaccines, so that if we do have a new variant and we can't stop it straight away, at least we cut the death rate to the absolute minimum. Those are the sorts of things I want to hear, not just timetable, but action.
I should, of course, point out that the fourth bridge is no longer painted constantly, Mr Davis. They've actually managed to stick something on it that lasts a bit longer. So you'll have to search for another metaphor the next time we talk. But just in terms,
well, I thought one would be appropriate to you anyway.
Thank you very much. I do want to touch on, because obviously you and I have talked over the past few years about Brexit as well as many other things. You and I sat down for a chat, in fact, out in Brussels when you were Brexit Secretary, you know, in the early days of the process, such as it was. Looking at the way that things are at the moment, with, you know, sausage passports and, you know, a border in the Irish Sea, do you understand why there are some people, particularly those working in fishing and shellfish, you know, who perhaps voted for Brexit, who feel slightly underserved by what is going on at the moment? Yes,
I do. I mean, when the new treaty was put through the House in one day, really the one thing I said in my speech was, look, we need to spend a lot of time on this because it's going to take a couple of years to work out all the wrinkles. They will be worked out, and we'll get there. And in the meantime, the government must do everything possible to support industries that have got difficulties, because we can make them all short term. But I understand entirely that people sort of assumed, maybe wrongly, that maybe we made it worse ourselves, that it would be all over in a day. It was never going to be thus. It's going to take a couple of years to iron out the wrinkles. I think we can iron them all out. I think it's a great piece of news that David Frost is continuing with it. Lord Frost is continuing on it, because I think he's done a great job, given a slightly difficult start. But yeah, I understand it. But I think they're all resolvable.
David Davis, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us in the programme.